Welcome to our restorative Qigong and Tai Chi session. And we like to say that this is an interoception informed practice of simplified Tai Chi and Qigong. And that really right away brings us to that question of Tai Chi and Qigong are mind-body exercises for the whole person. However, what is the difference between Tai Chi and Qigong? And so we're just going to engage that question very briefly. Qigong is an umbrella term that was coined in the last century to describe exercises that involve awareness of body and mind, and can be a sort of a contemplative practice. So if you think about Qigong as that all exercises that involve body, mind, awareness, that it actually includes a lot of exercises that wouldn't necessarily be considered Qigong. So you think about yoga, that's sort of a Qigong, that's just walking quietly or sitting quietly, that's also a form of Qigong. So think about it that way, that's very ordinary. But we have these terms, Qigong, Tai Chi, that we like to think about. And here you'll see a picture of me right here on the right in a competition. This was many years ago and my hair was very short. But generally we think of Tai Chi as a form of Qigong, but Qigong itself could be that very still practice, where Tai Chi is that moving practice that can be considered dance. So I like to invite that possibility that they're equivalent, that you want to have that sense of when you are still, you are noticing just how much of your body is actually moving. And so one of my favorite topics, breathing, for example, that's a full body experience. So if you do breathing very consciously, then you are engaging the whole body, but also doing a sort of a Tai Chi, a very dynamic experience. And similarly, when you do Tai Chi, that feeling of stillness inside, that feeling of bringing full commitment and concentration to movement, that's what we want to do in our Tai Chi when we're flowing, and movement connected sequences. And that becomes this metaphor for life. How do we move in life? And that's what we explore in this class. And so really briefly, Qigong is a word that means energy, Qi, right? And work. So it's working the energy, and that's the character there on the side for Qigong. And in particular, what you'll see the little shape here on screen, that there's a little cross at the bottom of that character that symbolizes fire and emptiness. And then above, there's a little slanting figure that looks like the lid of a pot that's coming up. And so you think about this looks like rice cooking, right? So the cooking process where something is happening to a process, and then the lid is lifting as the steam rises. And so that whole process is really the Qigong. And so we like to say it's dynamic, it's moving, and it is alive. Qigong and Tai Chi frequently involve using or anchoring our attention in interoceptive sensations related to the breath, as we talked, but other parts of the body, and this attention has been known to enhance non-reactivity, to reverse thoughts and impulses. And that's why it tends to be really good for us if we are dealing with a chronic condition of any kind. So this way, interoception is the communication between your body and your brain. And I like to just invite you to think about your brain as you. It is you, and it is unique. And it's how your system, if you think about your body as a system, how it takes care of itself, and really just how it's just maintaining processes just under our awareness. We don't really have to manufacture enzymes, for example. We don't have to do that, where the brain's taking care of that and signaling the rest of the body of how to do that. So we get, yay brain. that way. But then the brain is also this thing that can see itself and monitor itself, and that's where we're interested in working, because there's this thing that we do, we all have in common. We sense. And you can think about our senses bringing information into the brain as a form of input. And so we're getting input from all over. And this is one of my favorite diagrams to show where things are really coming into your system. So you could see, hey, you're getting information from your skin, from your limbs, from your muscles, the stretching and the engagement of muscles, from your hands, how you sense the world, from internal organs like that. That you can sense, your stomach, your bladder, your lungs expanding and contracting. You can sense your heart. And again, this is that all these things require us to really direct our focus to these things that we have in our system, that in the end, you can think about it as rising up towards the brain, where the brain then interprets and makes little micro decisions just to be alive and respond to life. And I like to remind everybody that no one else experiences the world the way you do, and your brain is unique to you. So this is where, you notice what you respond to and what is actually effective for you, because that is the critical piece here. The brain area associated with interoception, that's been identified in the last 15, 20 years, depending on how you count, is the insula. And you can think about it as on the side of your head, but deep and internal in your head. So on either side, it has two lobes on the right and the left. And we're looking at, if you take the first fold of the brain, the really big fold on the side, if you take it down a little bit, that's where our insula is, in particular in green there. And this is very deep in the brain, but you can see it's connected to everything. It's really layered in there that way. And so just bringing attention to that. That red stripe up above is the sensory motor cortex, which is going to be both sensory feelings, but also movement and how movement feels in our body. But really think about the whole brain being activated when we sense, and in particular when we pay attention to sensing, then even more of the brain is activated. So and activation is really good for the brain. That's how we keep that brain system alive, where the neurons that are actually firing and being used in the brain, those are the ones that get nourished, by the body's processes. Right? Of course, if they're being used, then that's where nourishment happens. That's also critical for the brain. So engagement of the brain, really, really good. And that's what's going to keep cognition really strong throughout our lives. And this is where a lot of us have concerns as we grow older of losing our ability for cognition. And so this is where, if we engage the brain, that's what's going to keep us very, very healthy in just to the end of our days. So that's really important to think about that, because we want that activation, and we get that activation a lot through our interoceptive network. And this is where we think about our interoception feelings, right? They're the things that we're aware of and that we sense. They influence our actions, and that comes from that part of the brain that actually interprets what's going on. And so that's happening kind of on a like I said, an unconscious level, but also on a conscious level. And this is where we, as just living beings, could start to name our feelings. And this could be very, very useful in influencing how we act. And so we say we name to tame, right? We name it to tame it, especially if we have feelings that are feelings we'd rather not feel. And you can see on this list that we have, pain is one of those things that we'd rather not feel. Sensory overload, rather not feel. However, when they do arise, we have that opportunity to actually do something to address that feeling. So we don't want to not feel our feelings, but we do want to have that sense of being able to navigate and influence our actions. So really, really important as we think about that consistent element of choice that we have when it comes to acting on our feelings. So that brings us to that question of what gets your attention, and then what holds your attention. So this is where, when we practice, we start to notice those things. And so we want to have a little bit of time to do that, to notice that. I picked the chronic pain as one thing to focus on, because I have worked almost exclusively with a chronic pain audience for the last 7-10 years, depending on how you count this time. But I also have had experience as a chronic pain sufferer, and chronic pain is defined as any pain that you experience that's 6 months or longer. Okay, and so we've all, and really, if you think about it, we've all had conditions and situations that have lasted 6 months or more, and some of us were born with things that, just that's what we have, or they came later in life. In my situation, I had a chronic pain situation as a young person, and then it disappeared for 10 years and then came back. And think about it as, I had 2 years, 3 years that was balanced by proper nutrition and exercise. But in my case, it was also hormone balancing that really made the difference. So that's why I say we're unique. But whatever the reason, we can start to get into this cycle of what happens in a pain situation, where we have pain that leads to pain thinking, that leads to pain type of emotions like depression and anxiety, and that will tend to organize our brains to come to expect pain, or have us avoid activities that might bring us into a pain situation. So this is very, very innocent how it all happens. But then we can start getting into deconditioning, and then suddenly that pain cycle feeds itself. And so this is where, becoming aware of any point of this cycle is very, very powerful, in that it could influence how we act. But of course, it takes that courage to feel the pain and actually do something about it, and actually sense what else is happening around. So this is where that skill of directing our focus really, really, really is helpful. This is one of the phrases I really love from Dr. Dan Siegel, who's a professor of psychiatry at UCLA. Where attention goes, neural firing flows, and neural connection grows. So this is that great idea of, the brain can change itself. The brain actually can just get into these wonderful grooves and grow more neurons. But it can also do that in that sense of reinforcing that cycle that I just showed you, where there's a dark side to the neurons wiring and firing together, where we can expect pain. We just mentioned that. You become more sensitive to pain. You feel pain more. Your thoughts and moods can become about pain. And this can happen. We can substitute pain, for another word, another condition. But like we said, you can stop moving. And so this can start to affect a whole life. And that can get us into a cycle. But the good news is that cycle itself can be interrupted. And this is where we do that very slowly, in interrupting the pain thinking. We interrupt the way this is organized in our very brains. And we do that by interrupting that avoidance. Okay, the avoidance part, where we start to move in that direction of exploration of pain and movement, and perhaps even the pain that is associated with movement. So this takes a lot of courage, because that can be very scary. Courage and repetition, right? So if we could do that, keep creating that sense of safety in the system, that's really key. And that's where repetitive movement, which is like Qigong and Tai Chi, can really, really help. So that's where we want to have that sense of interrupting and being very conscious of the cycle. And we say, what about the chaos of everyday living, right? So that's just can't practice every day. Something's going to get our attention, like a pandemic, like a fire, like our family situation, like our own pain could just resurface any moment. This can really happen. So this is where our training could really get us into that sense of organizing what we see and choosing what we focus on, so we can start to recognize patterns. So I invite you to just look for the purple. Look for the purple on screen, and notice how what happens in your system when you start to really engage that sense of directing your focus, becoming more aware of what you're focusing on. So the other colors are still present, but you can just look at the purple. Just look for the purple squares. And that becomes a skill, this way of navigating our experience. And again, it takes practice, and it's one of those things that is better to do in a group where we can support one another. So it brings to mind this beautiful quotation from Viktor Frankl: between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and freedom. It's a beautiful book called Man's Search for Meaning. And I remember that was one of those books that changed things when I read it. And it was just this possibility of really being in a challenging situation that has no escape, but we can find that freedom just in the tiniest, most unlikely places. And so this is that wonderful deep breath of possibility and even hope. So we think about that. There's 3 steps in all interoception training. I want to share that with you. And this is what we do. Awareness of the body. And this is cultivating that body literacy and what is the nature of your felt sense, and just really noticing. Exercises where we can actually bring our body into these relationships with ourselves, and just really even address the relationship we have with our bodies. And then there's the awareness practice that we can actually sustain our focus and hold our focus to that thing, right? That body experience, the movement. And that's what creates the communication in the brain, but also creates changes, right? It starts to really change the brain and make it more resistant more resilient and more resistant to the neuroplasticity that might be there by habit. So we can resist habit a little bit more. And we use our interoceptive network to sense our energy or chi flow, navigate space, okay, like we said, create shapes with the body and be in space, and also balance the use of our energy, which is really probably my favorite way to think about this is, how do we expend just the energy that is needed? So we just do no more than that. And that ability to really be efficient, that's actually a very bodily thing that we're doing. And that's something that the brain will do. Just what can we ignore? What can we ignore is so much of what the brain does. But we can actually use that skill also to really, like we were doing, choose only the thing, the 1 or 2 things to focus on. And that could really make a difference. So we come back to this chart of how interoception influences our feelings and actions. And this is where our jumping off point for practice. So we can start to sense the body a little bit more. And so we'll do a little bit of practice today as a result of our time together here, just to really start to see, well, can we tap into some of the items on this list that are quite lovely, like joy and relief. Yes, those are physical experiences as well. And I just want to point out also that there's just substantial research that's been done on these materials, or this information about how these very subtle, simple practices really benefit the body. And one book I can recommend is the Harvard Medical School Guide to Tai Chi. It just has really beautiful references from Dr. Peter Wayne, who's regularly engaged in research for Tai Chi and Qigong. And in particular, his teammate, colleague, Camilla Osipiak, has really brought Qigong onto the map last year in 2020, and really brought this sense of what Qigong is doing for the body and the mind. So really want to bring awareness that there's even more practices that have been outlined, and I can give you these references where Chen Tai Chi, for example, which I'm certified to teach as well, can help with low back pain, improvements in proprioception, which tells us where our limbs are in space, can actually really be the result of practice, and that is really key, and again, in engaging mind and body. Just focusing on posture, which is a form of input for the brain, can also relieve pain, and there's data on this, which is quite lovely. Low back pain in particular has been found to be relieved by a lot of these practices. So this is just a small list of recent research. But over time, these are really the gifts of our practice. We have an accurate sense of body sensations, so it's that retraining of a sensitive system, staying present with our experience, especially our emotional reaction, as another thing that can help us feel our sense of resource inside. And then it can help us regulate our attention, so our capacity to regulate our attention just increases. Perhaps we might experience that as more patience with ourselves, with others, more patience with the world. And that trust of our body sensations can really increase, and really have that sense of safety as a result of that. And then our mind-body integration can really use that emotional awareness to regulate our emotions, and really have that sense of being at peace with what is happening. And then my favorite, that sense of embodied self, which I believe is a requirement for experiencing joy. Really, if we can feel that on a physical level, with whatever body we have, that's really key to really that joy of living. So those are my slides today that I had to share, and just wanted to bring that to our attention. So let's go ahead and explore some of these concepts in the time that we have. So I'll go ahead and spotlight myself for you, and let's go ahead and find our spot. So become comfortable in your chair, okay, and just really clear a little bit here, and you'll hear my chair scraping back as I come back here. So being here, just in our space, let's go ahead and bring our hands onto the lower body, in particular, perhaps the thighs or the knees. And let's lean forward and feel the hands sliding forward slightly. There we go. And have that feeling of, the breath going back to the back of the body. And then very gently lift the heart. Lift the heart and feel, that sense of presence in posture. Just paying attention to posture a little bit. And let's bring the hands out and just gesture, palms facing forward. Feeling the chest open. And let's bring awareness now to the neck and head. So I'm going to invite you to use your hands for this, and really invite the hands to sense the head. So feel the temperature of the head, feel the size of the head, and then feel that really subtle position of the head in space. So having your hands on either side of your head, like so, I want you to nod your head gently. So your head is going to be nodding in just between your hands. Just a little nod. And as you do this, you might sense the muscles moving in the neck, a little feeling of sliding. Perhaps you might even hear the little internal sounds of the body, very subtle. One teacher of mine called it the frog. There's a frog sound, a little squeaking sound. All right, so you might just sense that. And then bringing the head back to center. Let's go ahead and just keep in contact with the hands lightly touching the head. Turn the head one side and then the other, just feeling the head move. Keeping the eyes open so you don't get dizzy. Think about your head is you. So keep your eyes open. So feeling your awareness moving from side to side. Wonderful. Let's have a sense of the head right in the center, like an egg balancing right on top. So bring your chin back slightly. We're going to let go of the head and just really feel, okay, those little adjustments we did changed that relationship we have to the neck muscles, the relationship we have to the weight of the head, which is quite heavy. That little nodding that we did, do a small nod here, and feel the shoulders respond. Feel the shoulders can relax a little bit as your body finds that efficient place where the muscles don't have to work so hard, where you can rely on structure, the structure of your skeleton to hold you. That's it, just letting go of effort, but feeling that presence of structure. Wonderful. Keep that as best you can, and then I'm going to invite you to bring your hands onto your breastbone. And similarly, let's do a few breaths here. A few conscious breaths, directing focus, engaging those neurons in the brain to track the movement of that breastbone, both with our hands, but also with our awareness. So let's take a few breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. So as you inhale, you feel that rise, that slight rise of the breastbone. And as you exhale, feel that breastbone just sink down. That very small movement. Tracking. Wonderful. Feel that connection of the shoulders, the breastbone, the head and neck as you breathe. And I invite you here to feel that connection to the rib cage and feel the rib cage comes down just that little bit. Let it settle into its place, just like the head and neck can relax into the structure of the skeleton. Let the bones, the ribs just come down a little bit. And feel that sense of space in the back, where it almost feels like the lungs could expand to the back, and we could even imagine the ribs expanding in the back. You can even have that sense of the torso is like a cylinder around the organs, around the ribs. So active. Or sideways movement, forward movement, backward movement, up and down movement. Take 2 more breaths here. And we notice, as we take that second breath, that once we pay attention to something, like the body, like the breath, it starts to change. And that's one of the laws of attention. So whatever we focus on is the thing that is likely to change. So it's almost like our awareness has a tremendous power. Wonderful. Let's get that same, we're going to bring the hands down to the ribs. And just cupping our hands over the lower ribs down below. And take a few breaths here. Now inviting the diaphragm to really engage. And the diaphragm is that beautiful muscle that tends to engage when we are relaxed. It's quiet breathing. So sensing that muscle, it's a little quiver, it's this little feeling of that muscle engaging. Just send the breath down, just let it arrive down below. And we'll do 2 more breaths here. Excellent. You're doing very well. And let's just keep that breath down below, really engaging that sense of quiet breathing. And then we'll have the hands on either side of our torso here. And let's just do a little bit of lifting up, coming into what we call the flowing motion. So lifting the hands, we'll feel, the ribs might start to engage and kick forward. And then bring the hands down. And let's coordinate this with the breath. This was one of my favorite movements for a long time. I used to start every class this way. All right, so we're going to bring the hands up and down, and then let's close the eyes for this one. Just a few of these movements with eyes closed. And when we close the eyes, let's circle back to those structures. So closing the eyes, have that feeling of the head and neck in alignment. Let there be that sense of balance and effortlessness. There you go, beautiful. Feel the breastbone lift up as you very gently inhale. And then sense that diaphragm coming all the way down. And the breath, as your breath deepens. So let's coordinate the movement with the breath here. We're going to inhale as the arms come up in this beautiful, slow, deep, long breath that brings us into relationship with our relaxation response. And feel the restoration starting to happen here as we engage muscles just a little bit. Inhaling, engaging that cylinder feeling in the body, and exhaling. Now I invite you to expand your awareness a little bit more. So expand it so that we're going to press the lower body down into the chair or into the floor as we inhale. And then as we exhale, relax that action so that, there's that feeling of still touching, still pushing the floor or the chair down, but doing it more lightly in a relaxed way. So we have an active pressing as we inhale and raise the arms, and then a gentle, relaxed pressing as we exhale. And this engages this wonderful quality of an active exhalation. And so the exhalation tends to get short shrift in breath practice, or even in everyday breathing, where it's very unconscious. Just where breath is unconscious, then the exhalation is really passive. But here, let's do a very active and engaged exhalation. And this could be very powerful. We're inhaling, that's very active, it's very and we exhale. That's also lovingly tended to. All right, let's do 3 more. Finding that rhythm, finding that engagement, whole body, whole being. participating. All right, 2 more. And last one. Whole body taking a breath. I invite you to rest. And rest very consciously here. I'm going to invite you to rest with your hands in a mudra. So you're going to have your palm, your left palm facing upwards. And then you're going to rest the back of your right hand on that left palm. And then just very lightly touch your thumbs together. Your hands will rest gently in your lap. So let go of that movement. Let yourself rest and recover. And notice what the body does as you recover. There's this feeling of energy just sinking down. You might even feel a sense of heaviness. I like to think of that as ballast. A sense of ground. And it's this feeling that the body loves. This feeling of support underneath. And just give yourself that feeling of support, and even let your body give its weight to the floor, to the chair. And so we take a very conscious moment to be on the earth, place our weight, our awareness gently on the earth. We could feel that sense of the earth, receiving the earth, saying, I'm so happy to hold you, so happy to be here for you. Wonderful. So be here for at least another breath, a few more heartbeats. Inviting that nervous system to shift into a place of restoration. That place that allows resting and digesting, but also integration. Everything that's happening in your life. Suddenly, or maybe not so suddenly, making sense. A little more sense than before. So we'll gently separate the hands. And then come into a few movements for the spine. So we're going to just come into a sideways movement. So we're going to go ahead and bring awareness to the plant side of the room, or where I have the word joy, and let that hand be heavy, and we're just going to bend over in that direction. Picturing, imagining that hand, that arm, just pulling us gently, as if that hand could touch the ground. And we already made connection with the ground. The ground is supporting you. And you can touch that ground as a reminder of safety. Let's come back to center and just go the other way very gently. So bring awareness to that chair side hand, feeling it very heavy, and just a little gentle tug. Feeling the body react, respond. Perhaps you take a breath. A little lean over to one side, a little pulling, a little sensing. I like to think about this gesture as, we're going to imitate the stem of a flower, like a tulip, just very gracefully in a vase. And then very gently come up. All right, give yourself a moment, let the body regulate. And then let's go ahead and cross the arms. So we do this on purpose. The weight of the arms will guide the ribs downward. And as the ribs come down, the back can relax. The shoulder blades can come down a little bit more. And let's use this position here. We're going to keep the shoulder, the elbow, and the hip together. And let's just twist, twisting over towards the plants. Hip, elbow, shoulder together, breastbone shifting. And then gently come back to center. That's very easeful. That was a great word that I learned many years ago from a teacher, and I loved it. Easefully go the other way. Paying attention to any sound you might hear of the body, skeleton reacting. Taking a breath when you're there, and then very gently coming back. Excellent. Let's relax the arms. And so we come into the space, making a declaration of, I will be safe no matter what happens. Staying in the center. Let's invite a little more activity here. So we're going to do a little bit of spirit shaking. Palm clasping palm, or hands clasping in the center. And let's shake in the middle. So have that right in the center. And we use that as a focal point, but the hands will go up and down. And then, following another law of the body, everything being connected, we'll start to feel other parts of the body shaking as well. And I'm going to confess to you that shaking was my least favorite exercise of all these exercises that we do. And keyword was, just ages ago, I did not like this because it reminded me of where I was tense. So the body needs to be relaxed in order to shake. Okay, so let's invite the shoulders to relax. You can even bow down the head a little bit and let the head and neck relax. And while we're here, let's just really shake a little bit more. Okay, shake a little bit more. So you need to press into the lower body. So to create a little bit of stability, press your feet into the floor if that's an option for you. But really feel that connection to the earth as you really start to invite a little more activity here. So let's breathe out through the mouth for this one. Blowing the breath out. And we'll do 2 more. All right, so shaking as vigorously as feels comfortable for you. And then breathing out vigorously with the mouth. So inhale and exhale. All right, let's do 1 more. And all right, raising the hands in front of the chest, shaking. Head can go forward and back, breastbone can shake, and even if you make a sound, you might feel a happening. All right, come up in front of the forehead. Okay, remember, arms are heavy, so do this respectfully. And then up above the head if that feels comfortable. Now when we have the hands over the head, the heart might start to speed up a little bit, and we actually want that. In this part of our practice, we want to wake up, awaken the spirit. There we go. Take a big breath, and take another breath. And this next breath, as we exhale, we're going to separate the hands and release the spirit. All right, so here we go. Inhale and exhale, separating the hands, releasing the spirit. And really, feel that space between the hands, the space around the hands. Wonderful. Feel the breath falling out of the hands. So we're going to just segue into our earth flow, into an earth flow, which is going to be a breath and movement coordinated again. So this is our beginning. An exhalation where we let the breath fall out of the hands. Then we take a new breath. Inhale. Come up. Hands could be just right over the head. And then bring the fingertips together. And then the backs of the fingers come together. So the fingers will point down. And follow that downward feeling with the hands, with the attention, with the breath as you exhale. Now you can bend all the way down and touch the floor, or just look at the floor and feel that presence and connection to the earth. Then we inhale. As we inhale, that upward movement will bring the hands up, back to that starting place, and then we exhale, separate the hands, paint a rainbow over our heads. So it becomes this beautiful dance, perhaps of gratitude, sensing the body. We start the cycle again. Exhale, drop the breath out of the hands, and then inhale. Feel that we're passing the hands through that beautiful space where life happens. And then bring the backs of the hands together, feeling the fingers pointing down, watching the hands as they come down as you're exhaling. Touching the ground with our awareness or with our actual fingertips. And then inhaling. Feel that beautiful lengthening of the spine spontaneously as you inhale. And then exhale. Separate the hands. Feel that sense of life and air all around. Feeling the breath falling out of the hands. Let's go 2 more times. Inhaling, feeling the joy of the hands arising, gratitude. Beginning the exhale as the backs of the hands come together, feel the fingers point down, the hands will relax. Watch the hands as they descend, feel the arms releasing the tension of being lifted up. Little slight bend forward, perhaps a big bend forward. And then we inhale, come up. Feel that sense of determination, that sense of life springing forth. Wonderful. And last time, inhale. Coming up, feel that beautiful engagement of the whole body. Backs of the hands come together. Breath comes out gently, slowly. And then inhaling, coming back up. Feeling that sense of power rising. Exhale, release. And then let's bring the hands in, crossing the hands in front. And we're going to end with a forward and back movement. So I've been doing this one a lot. I really like it. So we're going to bring the hands back, separating the hands, bringing the elbows back, and even imagine sending the elbows to the center of your back. So that makes us stick our chest out a little bit. Right? We're going to be and we want to look up. So roll the eyes up, and this is our little back bend. And then we take an inhalation here. Feel the front of the body. And then as you exhale, bow down the head and feel the hands come back to that cross position where we started. Bow down the head. Feel your back. Feel like your back is like the shell of a turtle, and the sun is shining on the turtle's back. And then let's inhale. Feel the spine rising and feel the elbows go back as you squeeze the shoulder blades together. Raise the breastbone, look up. And then we exhale. Cross the hands in front. Bow down the head, and perhaps even crossing the hands in front even more. So now the elbows align, the hands can separate. Now really feel that big opening in the back door of the heart. Let's go 2 more times. We're going to inhale. Send the elbows to the back. Squeeze the shoulder blades. Look up. Everything lifting. Breastbone, pubic bone, belly button, heart. And then let's exhale. Bowing down, curling the tailbone in, feeling the shell of the tortoise, and feeling the sun shining on the shell. Crossing a little bit more if that feels right for us. Elbow over elbow. And then let's do one last one. Coming up, looking up, and then exhaling. Embracing tiger, bowing down the head. And let's be here for a moment. Be here for a moment where you rest, feeling that sense of gratitude. Let's go ahead now, and we're just going to twist slowly to one side. So we're going to separate the hands. And so when you're back here in the upright position, we're going to separate the hands and reach forward with my plant side hand. Chair side hand will reach back, and that'll take the body into a little twist. I like how you're doing that very mindfully. Let's pass through an embrace of the tiger in the center. Come back. Crossing hands in front. And then going the other way. So front hand goes forward, back hand goes back. We look the other way. Wonderful. And then let's embrace tiger one last time. And very consciously, let's end this little form. So we're going to straighten the arms. Palms will face up. And then turn the palms. So keep them crossed, but turn the palms. And then we'll separate the hands. So we're going to make a horizontal line. Palms will face in. Let's do vertical lines coming down. And crossing the hands in front. Be here for a moment and see if we can reconstruct that sense of posture that we cultivated earlier. So let's nod the head, yes. Feel the back of the neck lengthen. Let's let the breastbone come down, let the shoulders come down, let the ribs come down. Balance the head on top. And then very gently press the lower body into the chair. Press the feet down. And as you do that, feel that lightening feeling, that it's lighter up top. Balancing gently, but rooted, connected. And this is that space where the body can take a breath, a sigh of relief, that feeling of connection, safety, perhaps even kindness. And be here in this space, trusting and knowing that your body will remember what this feels like. And then your body will look for it like an ally. So very gently inhale and exhale. And then let's go ahead and open the eyes and separate the hands. I'll just do a little wiggling of the fingers, a little wiggling of the toes. That's an option for you. And then let's just do a little shaking of the hands, a little letting the body come back. Okay, there's this little element of recovery that we need to do at the end of practice. That sometimes that could be like, oh, I'm going to stare out into space a little bit, or I'm going to lie down, drink a little water, because something important happens when we pay attention that way. And paying attention just requires energy. So we do need to recover. We do need to be in that space. So let's do a little bit of recovery. Yeah, there you go. A little bit of self-massage on the head. I like that idea. And one thing that I like to do is just do this little brushing of the forehead, just off to the side. And then let's find the ears and just give a little pull of the ears, a little pinching up and down. Feel the curve of your ear. Here we go. And then I'm going to invite you to make peace signs, okay, peace signs, and we're going to find the back of the neck. And so when we put those peace signs right on the back of the neck and up high, sort of the base of the skull, we'll find this little indentation at the base of the skull, right? We could almost call it like a hole, right? It's not a hole, right? But it is a process there. And here we have a beautiful point that we can stimulate. Okay, so we can stimulate, there, we want to be there. And think about the structure of the brain here. This is a section of the brain stem that we can kind of imagine that we're contacting, right? That there's a lot of important structures, but it's that part, we can even call it the medulla, right? The brain stem that takes care of the unconscious breathing. Okay, so we want to make sure that's strong. But there's something really powerful when we breathe consciously, and it's like acknowledging this point, this life-giving point. So we give that a nice little massage, make some little circles with the tips of your fingers right on either side. There we go. And just, you might even feel a few of those bones there, the smallest bones of the spinal column, right? The smallest vertebrae up top. Good. And let's take one conscious breath here. We're going to inhale and exhale. And then stopping the little circles with the fingertips, I'd like you to imagine you're tracing a parenthesis around your neck. Okay, so just a little sliding of the fingers down, almost coming to the center of the throat. Oh, I touched my microphone there. There we go. And we're going to just do that. Let's do that a few times. Very lovingly, very gently, just tracing sides of the neck. There we go. That's it. So the neck just has so many important structures. So I'll just do that one last time. Using a little bit of pressure at the back of the neck, but then easing your pressure as you come to the sides and to the front. Wonderful.